Hundreds of silver carp are leaping from the water. You might think this is a scene from a movie, right? No. This is the daily life of fishermen in the American Midwest. Here, a fish once called river trash, an invasive monster, and a parasite on the ecosystem, is quietly writing one of the most spectacular comeback stories in modern agricultural history. Would you believe that these same fish that once caused fear are now feeding hundreds of families, reviving a dying river, and bringing in a solid $12 million a year? The story begins with a seemingly harmless decision, one that no one at the time thought would lead to disaster. In 1972, American aquaculture engineers quietly imported thousands of Asian carp from China for a single purpose: to clean algae and weeds from their catfish ponds. They were the perfect biological vacuum cleaners. No electricity, no chemicals. You just drop them in, and they automatically get to work. They are voracious eaters, grow fast, and aren't picky about their environment. For farmers in the American South, they were a miracle solution. But nature, as you know, always has a way of fighting back. 20 years later, the historic flood of 1993 hit. The Mississippi River rose to unprecedented levels, breaking levees and washing thousands of these fish out of their farm ponds. They escaped. And so the nightmare began. Have you ever wondered how many eggs a single female carp can lay in one season? 1 million. That's right. 1 million tiny eggs, each taking only a few weeks to hatch into an aggressive little fish. They grow incredibly fast, eating all the plankton, the very foundation of the river's ecosystem. Bass, walleye, and bluegill, the native species that were once the pride of fishermen, suddenly starved, grew thin, and gradually disappeared from fishing nets. A survey on the Illinois River revealed a chilling statistic. 70% of the current fish biomass is Asian carp. In other words, for every 10 fish swimming in the river, 7 are invaders. They don't just take up space, they take the food, the living space, and the future of the species that had sustained generations of fishermen. Of course, the US government couldn't just sit back. They spent $300 million building underwater electric fences, firing acoustic cannons, deploying giant nets, and even testing selective poisons. But do you think we can outsmart a species of fish? The carp still jumped over the barriers, still multiplied, and still pushed forward. Only about 200 feet, a short 200 feet, separated them from Lake Michigan, which holds 1/4 of the world's surface freshwater and where a $7 billion fishing industry was on the brink of total collapse. If one breeding pair gets through, just one pair, it's enough to multiply into millions within a few years. Can you feel the chill down your spine thinking about the salmon, perch, and walleye, the iconic species of the Great Lakes, being pushed to the brink of extinction? Can you feel the helplessness of the fishermen who once made a living catching salmon, now left with nothing but torn nets and old stories? But then, in the darkness of failure, a light flickered. A Chinese food company called a small processing plant in Kentucky. They didn't ask for much, just a simple request. Send us a container of frozen fish, clean, uniform, and cheap. The local fishermen just scoffed. Who would buy such a bony, smelly fish that Americans would rather eradicate than eat? But money doesn't lie. The first container left the port, then a second, a third, a 10th. Freezers popped up like mushrooms after rain. The piles of fish that used to be burned on the riverbanks were now neatly packed in ice, labeled "Made in USA," waiting for cargo ships to Asia. Did you ever think carp would go on such a spectacular journey? From river trash to export commodity overnight? Now step onto an 80-foot steel boat on the Illinois River at dawn. The engine roars, sonar scans the riverbed, and a net wider than a basketball court is cast.
Back, behind the boat, wow! Watch out, they're everywhere.
Oh my God! Oh shit!
Then, acoustic cannons explode underwater. In an instant, the river boils. Thousands of panicked silver carp shoot out of the water, forming a glittering rain of living arrows. They slam into the net, which grows heavy. The crane whines as it hauls in 3 tons, 4 tons, sometimes 5 tons of fish in just 2 hours. No bait, no rods, no waiting. This isn't fishing anymore. This is industrial warfare. Every fish that hits the deck is a silver bullet. Every full ice chest is cash in hand. The fishermen no longer curse when their nets tear. They count money, they laugh, they call home to tell their families to get dinner ready. From the boat deck, still reeking of diesel and echoing with the sound of flopping fish. Massive ice chests are loaded onto refrigerated trucks and driven straight to the USDA-inspected processing plant in Wickliffe, Kentucky. The heart of Two Rivers fisheries. Here, over 4 million Asian carp are reborn each year as export-grade products. As the trucks arrive, a crane lifts the containers, and a living cascade of shimmering silver carp pours down a steel chute. Workers in white protective gear and rubber gloves quickly scan each fish with UV lights. The standard is 14 to 18 inches long, with no blemishes and no strange odors. Only 5% are rejected. The rest are tagged with a QR code for river-to-table tracking. Next, the fish slide into a 39-degree F's saltwater bath, where high-pressure jets wash away the black membrane and any surface bacteria. They then move to the cutting line. A curved blade slices the head off just behind the gills. The heads are used for high-end collagen. A steel hook guts them in one swift motion. The entrails are ground into organic fertilizer. And then a V-cut technique fillets the fish, removing 95% of the vertical bones, leaving behind firm, pinkish-white meat. A 15-pound fish yields exactly 6 pounds of pure fillet, with each piece checked on an electronic scale to ensure uniformity. The individual fillets then travel through an IQF, individually quick frozen tunnel. 40 GF air and a powerful spray of liquid nitrogen freeze each cell in just 15 minutes without forming ice crystals, preserving the natural sweetness, firm texture, and 20 grams of protein per 3.5 ounces. Nothing is wasted. The bones are hydraulically pressed for omega-3 oil. The skin is soaked in a mild acid to make gelatin. The scales are ground into cosmetic powder, and the leftover meat scraps are mixed with spices to create fish balls, sausages, or jerky. The entire process takes only 4 hours, handling 1,200 pounds per hour, with 100 employees working 8-hour shifts for $15 to $20 an hour, complete with insurance and safety training. Not a single ounce goes to waste. The jumping monsters that once terrified fishermen are now transformed into pristine white fillets, vacuum-sealed and labeled Kopi, made in USA, ready to be loaded onto 20-ton containers, bringing in $220,000 per shipment and conquering dinner tables from China to Europe. A 20-ton container leaves an American port, carrying a shipment worth $220,000. They arrive in China, where the fish heads are simmered in steaming aromatic soups. They arrive in Vietnam, where the meat is rolled into balls, fried to a crisp, and sold at bustling night markets. They arrive in Nigeria, where the fish is smoked and hung from roadside stalls. They arrive in Europe, where the fish meal becomes premium pet food. And in America? Most supermarkets still refuse to carry it. Consumers still wrinkle their noses at the mention of carp. But Illinois has made a bold move, a name change. From Asian carp to Kopi, short, memorable, and sounding like a trendy new dish. Food trucks selling Kopi tacos have appeared in Chicago. Surprised customers exclaim, "I thought this was a crab cake." The meat is white, firm, and not fishy, just a bit bony. Can decades of prejudice be overcome by taste? Meanwhile, fishermen who left the industry a decade ago are returning to the river. The government is subsidizing nets and freezers, and even buying the fish at a fixed price to encourage control of the invasive species. Over 300 new jobs have been created. The children along the river no longer grow up with stories of monster fish. They grow up with stories of river-saving fish. Every summer, the redneck fishing tournament kicks off. No fishing rods needed, just butterfly nets, plastic buckets, and even bare hands. Hundreds of people laugh and joke as they jump into the river, catching fish by hand, taking pictures, and posting on social media. It's an event that's both fun and meaningful, reducing the fish population while bringing the community together. And then, a real miracle happened beneath the surface. The latest surveys show that the Asian carp biomass in the Illinois River has dropped from 70% to 45%. The river is clearer. Aquatic plants are growing back. Native walleye, bass, and bluegill are starting to return. Eagles are once again circling in the sky. The money from fish exports is being used to plant river grasses, restock native fish, and clean up the riverbanks that were once buried under the pressure of the invasion. For the first time in decades, harvesting is no longer synonymous with destruction. Harvesting is conservation. Every fish caught is a step towards saving the ecosystem. You see, $12 million isn't just a number on paper. It's tuition for the fishermen's children, dinner on the tables of families who were once desperate, and a breath of fresh air for a river that was slowly dying. But the story doesn't end here. Scientists are running the numbers. If this model is expanded to the entire Mississippi Basin, if the risk of escape from ponds can be controlled, and if Americans can be convinced to eat Kopi, this industry could be worth billions of dollars globally. Are we smart enough to turn an enemy into an ally? Are we brave enough to look past our prejudices and try a bite of a Kopi taco? If you love stories about ocean survival, if you've ever felt the pain of seeing bleached coral, if you've ever wondered how to feed 8 billion people without destroying the planet, then the story of the Asian carp is a reminder that sometimes the solution isn't in a lab, but right under our feet, in the things we once called trash. Leave a comment below. How do you think the next invasive species will be turned into gold? And if you want to continue this journey of discovering secrets buried at the bottom of the sea, stories of disaster turned into hope, just hit subscribe and follow the channel. The world will open up before your eyes, one episode at a time.